Okay, let's start this over again because I felt like I was rambling in the first video of my attempts, but yeah. So because I started talking about my skin, y'all, because I'm just not happy with what is going on with my skin right now. And I know it's an internal thing. I haven't been taking care of myself that well. I haven't been drinking that much water. Been real tired. Bad habits. Jesus be my strength. So it's Wednesday, October 4th, I think. No, 5th. 6th, 7th, yeah. Wednesday, October 5th. Y'all know when you in a phase of your life where like you're in the in-between, like you're not there anymore, but you're not there yet either. So you're like in that in-between of pressing forward to something better. And if you don't handle that in-between well, you're gonna end up going back, or you gonna stay where you at a little bit longer. And that is where I am in my life, y'all. And some days I feel like I don't know how to handle it, and then some days I'm just like, okay, Krystal, you cannot respond in the same way that you would have any other time, because you just not that girl no more. You're not that woman no more. And it's a lot of it is like, you know, like my testimony, y'all, is like from like, like codependency. I always say I'm in like identity recovery. Like, y'all, I had the opportunity to be a guest on a podcast yesterday, and it's a podcast called Life Unexpected, and it's about unplanned pregnancy, and like if you ever deal with unplanned pregnancy anytime in your life, how it affected you. So I felt led to share my abortion story, and so that's what I shared. And I found out that I was the first one on her podcast to share about the abortion part of unplanned pregnancy. And I felt like I wanted to talk about, I got 5 kids and all but one was unplanned, but and I could easily talk about that and where I was in my life with all of them, but I feel led to talk about my abortions. And I feel like that is the Holy Spirit who is leading me to do this, to free people and help them overcome, as well as delivering and freeing me from that. Because I just found out recently that like when you have an abortion, it's deeper than just an abortion, y'all. Like spiritually, it's deeper than just an abortion. And abortion will take a hold on us and can carry on through the rest of our life if we don't go before the Lord and you know, confess our sin of abortion, even if at the time we didn't know what we were doing, whether, you know, you were forced or pressured into it, or you just made the decision to get an abortion. You just didn't know what you were doing in the moment, like committing murder. That's a sin. Like you were shedding blood, you were in agreement with it, and at that time you didn't care about the fact that there was a life. So my story is, you know, I didn't understand that at the time. Like, I just felt like, okay, my mom said, go get an abortion. This will make everything better. I was like 17 years old, not able to think for myself. I was just so worried about my father never talking to me again and peace in my home. I was just more worried about what my parents thought of me. Will this get my father's love back? Like, will my father love me again and not abandon me and act like I don't exist because I got pregnant at 17? My mom, like, she was there, but she wasn't there, because it was like, first it was support in the beginning, like taking me to look at baby clothes and all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, I think you should get an abortion. This will make things better. Your dad will talk to you again. So I am not thinking for myself at 17. Like, I am just like, like, whatever, you know, like, y'all, Holy Spirit help me to put a word to where I was at. But my life was so dependent upon like what my parents thought of me and what my father thought of me, like the guilt, the shame, the fear, everything that was just involved in that abortion at 17 years old. I felt like whatever my mom said to do was the right thing to do. So she went from supporting me and saying, you know, let's go look at baby clothes, calling me, do you need some food, to I think you should get this abortion. So I agreed. At the time, I didn't even think to look into it, to do my own research. I didn't consult my boyfriend, now husband at the time. And so just recently, after this whole Roe versus Wade, like, it wasn't even after this. It really had, I ain't gonna say it had nothing to do with this, but you know, it was one day I was just feeling like super, like just crazy, like hopeless, like, and you know, that's a lie from the devil, like. And so I was just crying. I cried out, like, I'm just crying, like, Lord, I don't, this is what I'm tired of right here, these feelings of despair, like, I don't want this anymore. And so I just had a good old cry on my bathroom floor, and like ended up praying and just asking God to forgive me for the abortions, you know, going into that. Forgive me for coming into agreement with it. Forgive me. But even at that time, I did not confess the sin of murder, and I didn't confess the sin of premarital sex. I didn't confess the sin of coming into agreement with, you know, my mother, where my mindset was at the time. Like, I was praying and crying and like, Lord, forgive me, but you have to confess the sins too and say, Lord, this is what I realized. So even like, y'all, this is an ongoing thing. Even just recently, like, I'm reading the book. I bought the book Abortion's Aftermath, or it's called Deliverance from Abortion's Aftermath. And there is aftermath when it comes to abortion. Like, spiritually, that thing take a hold of you, and it opens a door for the enemy to come in and just wreak havoc on your life, and you don't even realize, like, why am I not getting ahead? Why am I always feeling joyless? Why do I never have peace? Why am I always broke? Why can't I get why can I finish this project? Why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Why am I always here? Why is these constant cycles? You open the door to the enemy when you get an abortion. You've committed murder. Like, it just is, it is what it is. I know at the time when you were getting it, or when I was getting it, it didn't seem like we didn't think about it being murder. It was just like, oh my God, my life is more important than this child's life, and I can't handle it right now. And I did that 2 times my senior year. My mom, a pastor's wife, my father, a pastor, and she took me, set up everything, paid for everything, and took me. And it was just recently on the podcast that I was recalling, like, the moments of actually going into the clinic. The first abortion I had, where the vacuum, I got the vacuum situation. And so my husband and I, just last month or so, we watched a video of what they go in and do when they vacuum out these babies. And I was like, y'all, oh my God. Like, even to look at my 5 kids, there was a time in my life where I thought the Lord was never gonna give me kids. But even when I had that thought, I didn't know, like, God in the way I do now, and about confessing sins and stuff like that, and understanding how open doors and how the enemy wreaks havoc on your life in certain situations. And so even when I had it, there was a long time where I felt like I wasn't going to be able to have no kids because I had 2 abortions. So it was like the feelings were always on me of like, man, I feel horrible because I got 2 abortions, but I never knew how to confess my sins or anything like that, like I said. So just to be able to start talking, it was just the beginning, y'all, because there's so much more to unpack after just opening up and sharing my story openly with someone, to recall the moments, like what life was like when I got pregnant, what was happening before, the moment I found out, when I told my parents, that was the moment that my father abandoned me and act like I didn't exist. That was the moment where I felt like this false experience, like false support in a sense, from the people that I thought would be there to support me the most. My boyfriend, who is now my husband, wasn't even there to support me at the time. Y'all, it's heavy. I can't even talk about it anymore. I got to go. Okay, peace.